What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Costa, and today we have a great episode in store for you guys. As you can see right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, I am back in the Koffler Center at Wright University. I'm in an office building right now, but I am officially glad to say that I'm back on the Bryant campus. This is the first show I'm doing as a junior here at Bryant University, and joining me on the show today is the host of the Fumblerooski Podcast. Basically, you can call him my partner in crime at this point, Adam Wright. Adam, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing all right. I'm excited for some football coming up tonight, Thursday night football. Opening night, we have the Dallas Cowboys against the defending champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And for those of you who might be wondering, who are watching on YouTube, why I'm holding this mic like right next to me. I don't have a desk right now currently. So, and for you guys to hear me, I need to hold it somewhat close. So I'm going to be holding it right next to me. So it might look a little funny, but we're going to do what we need to do. We're going to make do right now.
Adam, this has always been kind of a bare bones podcast. I don't expect anything less. Don't worry about it. But getting into it, though, I do want to say, I'm very excited that the NFL is finally back tonight. It has been a long off season. It feels forever ago since I was, on this campus watching the Bucs win the Super Bowl. Just that night in general, was just insane to me. I mean, I remember, just sitting on my couch watching Brady hoist his seventh and just realizing, oh my God, we let this guy go. And I still can't get over it, but coming back into this season, I got to ask you, how you feeling about the Tampa Bay Bucs this year?
I'm actually feeling better about this Bucs team than I did last year's Bucs team.
Really?
Assuming that Tom Brady is still at a high level and that he hasn't aged, or if that knee isn't an issue, this team's going to roll again. And barring any significant injuries, say the injury bug happens to them and they lose a bunch of players and they wind up injury depleted, this team should be favored to win the Super Bowl and win a lot of regular season games.
Yeah. I'll say this. I think that the Bucs are in a great position this year, but I will say this. You brought up Tom Brady's knee, and for me, that is a major cause for concern with me so far. I do want to get into that, on the show right now. And, the main reason it's a cause for concern with me is, we've seen Tom Brady for many, many years, essentially be invincible. Like we've seen Tom Brady go out there and take hit after hit. We've heard of some of the injuries behind the scenes. Like it was alleged, I think in 2013, that Brady played with broken ribs and somehow managed to take that team to the AFC Championship game. There have been all sorts of rumors as to, what length Brady has gone to take his team to the next level. But, hearing about, obviously this offseason, Tom Brady had some surgery on his knee. It was labeled as kind of a cleanup surgery, but it was on the same knee that he tore in 2008 against the Kansas City Chiefs. He, obviously that torn ACL had him out for the season that year. And, it took him, I'd say it took him basically the entire 2009 season to get back to where he was. And then he came out in 2010 and just torched it. And he was amazing. Now, I gotta be real with you. This knee injury has been basically the only chink in the armor of Tom Brady, as a football player, and at 44 years old, like we see these guys get knee surgeries and you see them at maybe they're early to late 20s and, sometimes they can get back to where they are. Once you start getting those knee surgeries in your 30s, the recovery isn't always going to be 100%. And especially when you take a guy in his mid 40s, everything lining up, I'd have to say I'm pretty nervous about Tom Brady going into this year, especially since he also came out and said that he's not going to be wearing his knee brace as well, something that he's been doing ever since he tore the ACL. So I'm just like, in my mind, this could be the thing that brings Tom Brady down. Because listen, Tom Brady was never an athletic specimen. He was never the guy that was gonna, come out in the field and, dash around and make some, brilliant last second pass on one foot. He was the guy that was going to stand back in the pocket and make the best decision he could. That's never going to leave Tom Brady. He's always going to have that ability. The way Tom Brady is going to go out, is going to leave the league, is going to be via injury. He's essentially going to be stretchered out of the league. That's how he's going to leave. And, unless there's anything else that I don't know about, I think that this knee injury and anything going off of it could, start to participate or, lead to the end.
Could also be an arm strength an arm strength issue.
Absolutely.
Players once they start, especially when you look at Peyton Manning. I know he had a shoulder injury late in his career that also contributed to this. But once his velocity went down on his fastball, you could see during the 2015 season, he was just not himself. He was a game manager. I mean, if you took the name off the back of his jersey, he became nothing. So there could be that. But yeah, you're kind of right. He needs to get hurt in order for him to actually leave the league. And I mean, when it comes to durability, there's no one better in the game than Tom Brady.
Yeah. I mean, it's for 20 years, barring the 2008 season, we've seen him, like take on huge hits, and he's gotten up every time. And, every time after that, New England fans are shaking their heads asking, how the hell did this guy do it? And like me included, my dad and I we'd watch games on Sunday, and I'd see Tom Brady get hit, and my dad would just go, "Oh, Brady's hurt," just because of like that would be the normal reaction to a guy like getting hit this hard. And you'd see him get up, you'd see him like maybe like shake it off a little bit, and then he'd get right back in the huddle and he'd be himself. Like that's where I'm like, this knee injury is the one thing that I think could take Tom Brady down, and it's nervous to me because I love Tom Brady. I think that obviously he's the GOAT, but this in my mind is the thing that will eventually lead to the demise of Tom Brady. When it came to Peyton Manning, a lot of things were going wrong for Peyton Manning at the end. Obviously, he had the catastrophic neck injury. You mentioned the arm as well was kind of became like a noodle arm towards the end. Unfortunately, it just really kind of fell out of favor for him. And the other thing too that people kind of forget about during that 2015 season was Peyton Manning suffered from plantar fasciitis, and it was a kind of a deteriorating foot. I believe it was in his right foot, but I could be wrong there. And it cost him to miss like multiple games. That's the reason why Brock Osweiler was starting games for the Denver Broncos. It wasn't because of Peyton Manning's noodle arm. It was because he had a devastating foot injury that kept him out for a very long time. So, while I think Brady is much more durable than Manning was at the end, I think that, especially at the age of 44, you got to be watching it this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, the reason I don't see it as big of an issue as you do is because he played with a fully torn MCL injury that entire season. He threw 40 touchdowns doing it.
That's fair.
And nearly 5,000 yards. And now it's repaired. And who knows if it will be 100%, but he did what he did with it torn and completely like just destroyed.
Yeah.
And now it's fixed. So I'm thinking the logic in me is saying he's going to be healthier this year than he was last year, but I could be wrong.
I mean, listen, I'll give you that. He did play on the torn MCL. He did, have to battle through it, and the fact that he did was absolutely incredible. I mean, he also did have the knee brace on, and he had some extra protection down there. He said that this year he's going to be taking the knee brace off as basically a sign of comfort. He thinks that, he's saying he's not going to become Michael Vick with it off, but he thinks that, will provide him a little bit more mobility, will be a little more comfortable. Here's the thing. I think that, obviously this is an injury at this point that's well over 10 years old. He has had surgery to now clean it up. But I mean, listen, at the age of 44 with the, intensity, with the intensity that Tom Brady plays at, I don't know how a surgical repaired knee is going to hold up on a guy like that. Like, I mean, listen, Tom Brady's on the keto, the TB12 diet of, doing everything he can to be healthy. But man, like when your knees go, they go.
Yeah. When they go, they go. And the MCL was fully torn last year, and he still threw 40 touchdowns doing it. So we'll see how he does in year 2 in this system and under that knee now being fully repaired. Like you said, I mean, it remains to be seen whether or not that'll be able to hold up. But I think it will. And even if it doesn't, we may not even hear about it, and we'll hear after the season when he wins Super Bowl number 2. Oh, the MCL tore again, and he played with it.
Honestly, at this point, while I am very skeptical of Brady's health coming into this year, it wouldn't surprise me if he just comes out there and just torches the league. I mean, we're living in this is literally a storybook career for this guy at this point. If he does do that, then yeah, I'll eat my words and I'll say that, Tom Brady's just invincible, because if he does that after, everything he's been through, I don't know how you can defend it anymore. But, you brought up the fact that you think that this Bucks team is going to be better than last year's team. I do want to ask you as to why, because they did come alive in the postseason. They had an incredible run against teams like the Washington Football Team, the Green Bay Packers, and obviously winning the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. But why do you think that they're going to be better this year after, kind of seeing that they had kind of a clunky regular season. They lost both games to the Saints. I know they ended up beating them to, advance to the playoffs, but why do you think they're going to be better this year? Just based on the fact that, they have the extra experience. Like I saw them kind of as like that playoff team, but I don't know if they're going to be, these like the world beaters that we saw them as during January.
So the reason's actually fairly simple. It's just that it's year two with the new quarterback in the system. You hear all these reports that Tom Brady was basically learning this playbook on the fly through the regular season. And you could also see in that same course of time that the Buccaneers play got better as the season went on, and they went on a tear during the regular season. When they lost after they lost that Kansas City game in devastating fashion, almost won, by the way, they didn't lose a game after that. Yeah. So this is a team that, they struggled during the regular season, but you have to put it into context. This team, if you look at it throughout, you can name several examples of quarterbacks who are under a new system, and in year two were able to figure it out and had a better year.
I mean, I'll give you that. Listen, I mean, I think that Brady, like, if Brady's healthy, I'm not concerned about that. Brady's health is the one thing that has been on my mind about this Bucs team. I'm not worried about Brady as an aging player on this team. Like, trust me. The one thing I am worried about is how is Leonard Fournette going to be coming back? I know we had Lombardi, Lenny, and all that, but I even took Leonard Fournette in fantasy because I think I have some confidence in him. But I am skeptical as to how he's going to perform as an aging running back at this point, approaching his 30s, if not in them at this point. How is Antonio Brown gonna be? I know he caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl, but he's also getting up there in age. I mean, while you do have guys like Rob Gronkowski, who also retired at one point, and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, I'd have to say, like, you have great weapons, but you also have some very old ones as well.
So the one thing that I like about this backfield now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you'll hate it through a fantasy football perspective because nobody likes committees, but it's the fact that it's sort of a committee. There's Leonard Fournette, who's sort of the north-south runner, just plows through guys. Then you have the elusive Ronald Jones, who has a really nice spin move that I like seeing. He does it all the time. It's quite fun to watch. And then you have Gio Bernard, who's sort of the James White of the offense, if we're talking in Patriots terms, where Tom Brady used to have that pass catching back, the Danny Woodhead, the Dion Lewis, that type of back. So they have sort of a three-headed monster there for like the short passes, anything you need for rushing. Antonio Brown, he's definitely not what he once was, but he's the number 3 option on that wide receiver core. And you still have Scotty Miller. You still have Mike Evans, who's one of the better wide receivers in the game. You have Chris Godwin, who's a very good number 2, if not a number 1 in some other offenses. And you have a three-headed monster at tight end with OJ Howard, Rob Gronkowski, and Cameron Brate. And on top of that, front of the pack in the league offensive line. So you look everywhere you look, there's talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball, let alone the defensive side of the ball that also has talent.
Yeah, and the fact that they brought back all 22 starters from, I believe, the Super Bowl, helps them a lot. That chemistry is going to be great for them this year. You seem to be very high on the Bucs. I seem to, be skeptical that they could have a Super Bowl hangover of some sort. I've been seeing these talks of, on ESPN and whatnot of, they're saying, oh, the Bucs are going to go 17-0 in the regular season. They're going to be the team that does it and kind of tops the Patriots in terms of their like record going into the postseason and whatnot. Do you think that's the case? Because I mean, listen, while I think that this Bucs team is incredibly talented, to go undefeated like the 2007 Patriots did, it took a lot. Like the combo of Randy Moss, Wes Welker, like what we had at tight end, I mean, not tight end, but just what we had all around, on the team. It took a lot. So, are you guys confident that this team can do that?
Well, I'm not confident that any team can go undefeated because it's only happened twice in regular season history, and only one team has completed it, and that was before the regular season was 16 games. Now it's 17. So I'm not confident that it can happen, but if there's any team in the past 5 years who can do that, it's this team. This team probably has the best shot, but to say confident, no.
Yeah.
No. They'll probably lose a couple games.
I mean, I've been seeing guys like Dan Orlovsky kind of saying like, "Oh, the Bucs will definitely go 17-0," and I'm just like, listen.
Of course, he works for ESPN. They're always going to say stuff like that.
I know they're going to say stuff like that, but I see this stuff and I'm like, it's ludicrous just based on the fact that, the Super Bowl champions to say that they're going to go 17-0. I can't buy into that fact. Like, they're playing the Dallas Cowboys tonight. I don't think that they're going to lose to the Cowboys, but the Cowboys present a good option with Dak Prescott coming back off injury. I mean, they're going to face good challenges throughout this season. And to say that, like, they're not ever going to hit a rut, like, I just think it's ridiculous.
I agree.
Yeah. But, I did want to get into that with you. I also want to ask you, if there isn't a team, if it isn't the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as your Super Bowl favorites, and I'll actually throw out the Kansas City Chiefs as well, who would your Super Bowl favorite be? Like, and it can't be one of those two.
So on the NFC side, in my latest Fumblerooski episode, we made our conference championship picks and our Super Bowl picks. So I'm prepared for this.
Okay.
But in the NFC, I actually have the Rams. Okay. I think they're this season's version of the Bucs last year, where they get a new quarterback who inherits a great offense. And on top of that, they have a good coach. They have a great defense, above average offensive line, and a running game with very solid potential. They did lose Cam Akers, but they replaced him with Sony Michel, who's a solid option. They still have Darrell Henderson. So that's a good team that I really see could make a run. The only reason I don't have them winning the Super Bowl, or making it at least, is because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are standing in their way, who are the better version of the Buccaneers of last year's Buccaneers, as I mentioned before. On the NFC side, I like the Buffalo Bills. I think AFC Josh Allen is did I say?
Yeah, I was just correcting. I was just saying AFC wise.
Did I say NFC?
Yeah, just so I got it.
Whoops. On the AFC side, I like the Buffalo Bills. I think they have a great young, very good. I'll say very good because I think great is overused nowadays. They have a very good young quarterback in Josh Allen, who seems to be getting better with every year he plays. You have a number one wide receiver in Stephon Diggs, who's one of the best in the game right now. And you have a number two in Cole Beasley. They just got a veteran in Emmanuel Sanders. They have a very good defense. They have a good offensive line. Their run game did not change at all, which I'm a little disappointed about. But this is a team where if it's not Kansas City, it's going to be them or the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I mean, I like that you threw the Browns in there. I actually ended up, but when you brought up Stephon Diggs, I actually just drafted him in my fantasy league last night. A little college league I'm doing, and I ended up showing my roster to one person, and he was saying, "Why would you take Stephon Diggs like at the number 9 pick? Wouldn't there be like so many other people available?" And I'm like, I saw Stephon listed there, and I remember you having him last year and absolutely torching me in one game. So I was like, all right, when it comes to this league, I at least want to have Stephon Diggs. So so for one, I got Stephon Diggs, and I also double up by getting Josh Allen. So I'm going to get double those points, and I'm just going to hopefully run with that. I mean, I don't think I've ever doubled up like this. Like the last time I really did a double up like this was when I took Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, because I knew that they were just going to get points.
Yeah, and my fantasy football team in your league last year was a Cinderella story. I snuck into the playoffs at 5-8. I made a trade just before the regular season ended to trade away Aaron Rodgers when I had Tom Brady on the bench for Stephon Diggs. And Stephon Diggs and Tom Brady carried me through the playoffs and won me a championship. It was incredible. And in the championship game, I was down 30 points. This is PPR, 30 points. And that was the game where where Stephon Diggs went for 41 points. He won me the game by 11 points. It was incredible.
I mean, Stephon Diggs, he's looking to have a monster season this year. Another year in the Bill system, getting comfortable with Josh Allen. I think he's going to have a monstrous year this year. If I didn't have to pick, if you picked two good teams with the Bills and the Browns, I'm gonna kind of appease to your co-host's favorite team. I'm gonna say that the Baltimore Ravens could make a big jump this year. I think that Lamar Jackson kind of had an MVP hangover after last year's run, and I think it kind of there was some little adjustments that he had to make. Obviously he still had some great highlight plays, but I say Lamar kind of learns from the league kind of trying to figure him out, and I think he actually comes out this year and has a great season out of the AFC. Out of the NFC, I have to think as well. I mean, listen, if Aaron Rodgers gets pumped up enough to actually lead this Packers team on the last dance that he's been kind of praising about, watch out for him. If he actually gets the motivation that he's been kind of hyping up, I'd really like to see what he can do.
Yeah, that'd be nice. It's valid. The only issue I have with the Baltimore Ravens, and I would have been higher on them this year, is that the Baltimore Ravens, their whole offense is centered on the run game. And the issue is with the amount of injuries they have suffered on that side of the ball, especially with their running back core, they lost J.K. Dobbins and they lost Justice Hill. And now they're relying on Gus Edwards to be the workhorse back. And I don't think he's going to be able to handle that role, by the way. There's a reason why they've been picking up other players. They took J.K. Dobbins in the second round. He's never been the number one back, and there's clearly a reason why they don't trust him to be that. And if they're reliant on their run game and they don't have a run game with their rushing, if Lamar Jackson is your top running back, then you're in trouble because he's supposed to be your quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, though, we got to learn that, Lamar is never going to be the prototypical thrower that we've always thought he was going to be. He's going to be the run first guy. And, it's possible that he could redefine the quarterback position. I'm not going that far. But, I also look at you were talking about guys that the Ravens picked up. I saw that they also picked up Le'Veon Bell off free agency. He's currently on the practice squad, and they may activate him at some point. I was just having me think, like, what the hell happened to Le'Veon Bell, man? I mean, he was at the top of his game, was the undisputed greatest, best running back in the league when he was at his top, and sat out the year because he didn't like the contract he was getting paid. Went to the Jets, really kind of underperformed there, and has had disagreements with the Chiefs and other teams since. The way he's fallen off the cliff has been ridiculous. I mean, if he had actually played that one last year, who knows what type of a contract he would have gotten.
Yeah, so I just think he got old, and running backs, they age like milk, unfortunately. I love running backs, especially when it comes to fantasy football. The elite ones, they'll get you fantasy points. But the issue is those running backs don't last long. They'll last 4 seasons maybe.
Yeah.
And that's probably the issue with Le'Veon Bell. That 1 year he sat out, he aged a little bit, he got out of shape. He lost probably one of his last years of his prime. He went to the Jets. Maybe he would have been better that year with a different team, but he was on the Jets. And then he goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. He has nothing. He's old and he's out of shape. That's just plain and simple.
No, it really just is kind of how that all crumbles, at the end. You were talking about running backs, aging and, unfortunately guys not being able to last that long. One of the running backs I want to look at going into tonight's game, we were talking about the NFL season starting at the beginning of the show and, the excitement that we have, going into it. Ezekiel Elliott, last year, obviously Dak Prescott went down with that gruesome leg injury and, whatever hopes the Cowboys had for that season really kind of went out the window when Dak went down because Andy Dalton really wasn't going to do anything, and neither was Ben DiNucci, just being frank. But, with the starting quarterback coming back, how do you think Ezekiel Elliott is going to be, in this Cowboy system now that, he has some more comfort, under center?
So when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, and this is their entire offense, if Dak is healthy, that offense will run about assuming he's healthy, that offense will run smoothly. And I really don't have, and assuming he is healthy, I don't really have many concerns about the offense. I think the offense is going to put up some points this year. Dak's young enough so that he can overcome injuries like that.
Yeah.
As gruesome as it was. However, my main concern with Dallas is sort of their defense. If their defense is good, if their defense turns it around, they'll be a playoff team.
Yeah.
It's just simple as that. They'll be a playoff team. And to answer your question, yes, I think Ezekiel Elliott will be better. He'll return to his old form if Dak Prescott is back to form. And I actually think he is.
Yeah, I think Dak Prescott is, despite the gruesome injury that he had, I think that Dak Prescott will be just fine this year. He seems to, he doesn't seem like he's lost any confidence in his abilities, and I think he'll be just fine this season. I think, Ezekiel Elliott will have a great season, and I'm also excited to see how CeeDee Lamb will do this year, having an actual quarterback throwing to him for hopefully 17 games now at this point. Hopefully he can have a breakout year and the Cowboys can actually show out.
Yeah, I think CeeDee Lamb's going to be their new number one. I think he's going to surpass Amari Cooper. Not to say Amari Cooper is going to be bad, but CeeDee Lamb's just more talented. He was a freak.
He's younger. He's got just the youth on his side. It's going to be, I'm really excited to see what he can bring to the table.
He's incredible. He gives me Des Bryant vibes.
Do you see that catch he made when Andy Dalton like where he basically like contorted his body and made this amazing catch? I believe it was against the Minnesota Vikings.
I sure did.
Yeah, that catch was ridiculous. He looked like I don't even think top gymnasts could move their body like that. And like the fact that he was able to just contort his body, like I can't even describe the throw at this point, but if you go back and look at this highlight, the way he moves is insane. So, I did want to touch on that and see how you're feeling about the Cowboys as well as the Bucs going into their game tonight. I'm very excited to watch it, but some other individuals I'm excited to watch are some NFL rookies. Obviously, I'm really excited to see Mac Jones as a New England Patriot. But before we get into him, I do want to talk to you about the first two picks of the NFL draft, that being Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. I want to talk to you about a recent decision that came down. I guess there were some player votes among the team, and the team ended up voting to have them as the captains of the team. And both are rookies, both have not played a single down in an official NFL game yet at this point, yet they're being named captain of the team. Do you think this is a mistake to be putting this kind of a pressure on them?
It's tough because the team has enough, the whole team, like their teammates have enough confidence in them as leaders that they feel that they can be captains right away. However, I do think that how I feel about rookie quarterbacks. I think they should be nurtured. I think they should be taken care of early on in their career, regardless of whether it's necessary or not for each individual player. Because that's your franchise guy. This is a player it's a quarterback driven league. So therefore he is the future of your team. So I say it's a little bit unfair of pressure to put on him just because that's a lot. But I mean, if those two are ready to go, then they're ready to go. And I'm excited to watch them.
I mean, I'm going to be excited to watch them as well, but I think this is way too much pressure you're putting on them. I mean,
I agree.
I mean, listen, these franchises like the New York Jets and the Jacksonville Jaguars, I get it. They haven't had success in a long time. The Jets, it's been what now at this point, freaking 52 years since they've won a Super Bowl. Like it's atrocious since it's been atrociously long. I will give them that, and that they're basically trying to do anything at this point. But a move like this is kind of what separates, I think, a team like the New England Patriots and, teams like the Steelers and teams like, the Dallas Cowboys from these teams. Because, if Bill Belichick named Mac Jones the starter, it would make no sense because, Bill Belichick has a bunch of proven leaders on his team, guys like Matthew Slater, guys like Devin McCourty that can go out there and, show these guys the way. And while I'm not saying it's going to be tougher to find those guys on teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Jets, those guys still do exist. There are still kind of staple guys that you could label as captains and, roll them out there like that. when you're putting these guys out there, you're putting them on such a pedestal. And, I think that, I obviously think that Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are going to be worthy of being captains in the NFL one day. That's a no-brainer for me. I'm not worried about that. But when you put this kind of early pressure on them, it's pressure that they don't need. They're already making their debut as NFL quarterbacks. Zach Wilson as well, because he's in the freaking Big Apple and is making his debut over there. That's enough pressure as it is. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence, I think he'll be just fine. But Zach Wilson, BYU guy coming out like to the Big Apple, there's going to be some pressure there. When you're putting these guys under that much pressure, I don't see the need to add more. And the fact that they're doing it, it just doesn't set these guys up for success. I mean, listen, I think they'll be successful, but I agree with you. You want to coddle these guys, you want to get them into the league and, make sure that, technically they're sound before, you throw them to the wolves and have to deal with all the extra stuff. Like, that's just where I stand on it.
So, the reason I'm conflicted on this is not because it's just it's not like there's some one executive or like ownership who's stepping in and saying, make him the captain, or like the head coach is saying, make him the captain. This is this is teammates, the roster. They all banded together and they voted, this guy has been a good leader. Let's make him our leader. So it's not like they just said like, it's the Jets being the Jets and they're just saying, let's make this guy the captain.
I mean, I know it's still a player-driven thing, Adam, and I do think that I know that I know that shows that they have a lot of confidence in him. But I feel like the coach at that point should just say, like, guys, we don't need to be putting this guy under that much stress. Like, we want him to be able to, have enough success already. If that's something you elevate to him, after like the first week, even like I'd be fine with that. But the person, like, these guys haven't even played an official down yet in the NFL, and you're throwing them to the wolves like this. I don't think it's a good look. I mean, I don't think that Bill Belichick would be doing this even if he had a guy like Trevor Lawrence in his squad. Yep. I think that he'd be delegating to other guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the only reason I'm conflicted at all is just because, well, all their teammates and the rest of the roster believe collectively that these guys are right to be captains right now. And we'll see if they can handle the stress. If they can't, then this is going to be used as an example of why the Jets are the Jets and why the Jaguars are the Jaguars for years to come. The number 1 and number 2 picks being busts because they had way too much pressure put on them at such a young age.
I mean, listen, like, I'm not saying that like guys haven't had this sort of pressure put on them like that before. I mean, listen, Peyton Manning had this kind of pressure when he was going into Indianapolis. Like, Indy had, they had not nearly the amount of success that they had until Peyton Manning got there, and he transformed that organization and has made it into a staple that what he did for the Colts, I don't think can be put into words. He made the Colts a more legitimate franchise than they ever thought they could have been. If not for Peyton Manning, the Colts would, I think, still be on par with a team like the Jaguars or the Jets. That's just how I think they'd be viewed. Like, they wouldn't be viewed as, one of these staple organizations and like one of the pride, teams of the league. They'd kind of be like labeled as like, oh, one of these middle of the pack crowds, and it wouldn't be anything too spectacular. Peyton Manning was able to transform them. I think that these guys have the ability to transform their franchises, but in the age of social media and everything going on, I don't think you need to add any more pressure to them.
Right. And it is tough with quarterbacks because it's a quarterback driven league, but it's not like the NBA where it's all you need is the star power and the rest of the guys can suck and that's okay. The rest of the roster actually matters. And if the quarterback isn't conducting an offense that's relevant for a little while, or an offensive line, God forbid, Joe Burrow, or Andrew Luck, that just screws them over, then it just ruins the player.
I mean, don't even get me started with Joe Burrow. Even going to this year too, gets his ACL torn because his O-line sucks. I mean, I remember being on this show when Joe Burrow got drafted, and me and my co-host, we were talking about how, it's going to be the O-line that takes Joe Burrow out of a game because he was taking so many hits at the time. And unfortunately, that is what happened to him. And what did the Jaguars do in the draft when it comes to their pick? Towards the top of the round because they had another unfortunate year. They get a wide receiver. They get Jamar Chase, and he's looking kind of right now. So I mean, I think they could have gotten Penny Sewell too. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
They
So,
could have.
yeah.
They were projected to get him. That was what every mock draft ever was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went the other route, and they thought Jamar Chase looked way too enticing for them to pass up on. And the idea of it looks good. I mean, that you would have Jamar Chase as your number one, Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins right behind them. You still have Joe Mixon, and you work on that defense, and then you work on whatever you can on the offensive line and through free agency in the later rounds of the draft. But I mean, the offensive line is so important to protecting your young quarterback. This is a high risk thing for them.
Yeah, I mean, you need a guy behind a good O line, and one guy obviously with that would be one guy that you can point to with that who is a rookie quarterback will be Mac Jones. He's going to be starting this season as the Patriots starter, which shocked all of us. I got you on immediately when that news broke to talk about Cam Newton being cut and Mac being named the starter to break down that. And if you want to talk about a quarterback being in a good position, I especially a rookie one. I don't think there's a better position to be in than Mac Jones at this point. He's entering into a well fortified system, has a bunch of new weapons to use, and is behind a great O-line with one of the best running games in the league. You look at the Patriots running back core, and it's amazing. James White, freaking Ramondre Stevenson, who I'm really starting to like this year, among Damian Harris and others. He's in a great position.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hats off to Bill Belichick for deciding after Tom Brady left to finally start retooling this offense. And I think now this was a key time to do it. Now that they're bringing in a young guy like Mac Jones, and the offense is built for him to succeed. And we'll see how he does with it. He's the type of player who kind of he sits back in the pocket and he picks you apart. That's exactly what Tom Brady did. That's the way this offensive, that's the way this new roster is structured to do. So we'll see how it works.
Yeah. In your opinion, how do you think Mac is going to be week one? I mean, it's the first, his first, I know he's had some preseason, games to get under his belt, but this is going to be his first real test playing Tua and the Dolphins. How do you think he's going to be?
I think he's going to show some flashes, and I think he's going to be all right. It'll be one of those things where you take the eye test and he looks good, but he won't jump out on the stat sheets because this is his first regular season game. He may not jump out on the stat sheets all season long, for all we know. I mean, he's a rookie. This is just a feeling out stage for him, but. I think the Patriots are going to win. I do. And I think Mac Jones is going to show some promise this year.
Yeah. I mean, going to this Dolphins game, with the feeling out process, I don't know if Bill Belichick has him throw a legitimate downfield pass. I mean, I think there's going to be the check downs. There's going to be, kind of like the in and outs, like, pulling off the running game, throwing to the running back, But I don't know if we're actually going to see Mac Jones, really take to the air this game. I think that, Bill Belichick is going to do everything he can to, preserve him and keep him in, a good mindset until he's confident enough that he can go out there and shine. At this point, I think that, this is going to be a very run heavy game against this Dolphins team. I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw last year, minus the Cam Newton runs. And, I feel confident in the Patriots as well. I will be interested to see how Xavier Howard and other members of this Dolphins secondary do against Mac Jones. Byron Jones as well. I'm going to be excited to see how Mac does with going against those guys. So, it's going to be a legit test. He has some legit guys on the defensive side that he's going to have to go against. And I'm excited to finally have football back.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it all go down. It's going to be so much fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun, Adam. But unfortunately, I do have to tell you, we are now down to the wire, which means I'm going to go through, a couple of the things that we talked about in this episode, and we will see you out. Obviously, Obviously, Adam, thank you so much for coming on the show. Host of the Fumblerooski podcast. If you want to go plug that right now before we get into it, go right ahead.
Yeah, go check out the Fumblerooski podcast. Yeah, not much more to it. We talk all things NFL football. We are constantly looking for ways to improve. We have a whole segment dedicated to our listeners where we post on our Instagram a question box where we ask, just say anything, give me a hot take, ask us a question, anything. We'll give you a shout out and everything. We take care of our followers. We take care of our fans.
Yes, you do, Adam. You really do. But in it being down to the wire, I want to let you guys know. Want to do a quick rundown of what we talked about. Obviously, had Adam on to talk about the NFL season starting tonight. We talked about the Tampa Bay Bucks and my worries about Tom Brady's knee injury last year and how it may affect him this year, as well as thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys and how they may do, as well as Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson being named captains and how that could affect them coming into the year. We talked about Mac Jones Week 1 expectations, and I'm excited for this Sunday. I think it's gonna be a really good time, but it's been long enough. It's been a long enough wait, and football is finally back tonight. I cannot wait to go watch some myself. But if you're not subscribed or listen or following Down to the Wire at this point, what the hell are you guys doing? You can follow us on all sorts of social media. We're available on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, anywhere you can listen or watch podcasts. But the main hub you can reach us through is our Instagram. Again, you can follow that at down.tothewire. Again, I'll repeat myself. You can follow it at down.tothewire on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. And from Down to the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Adam Wright.
And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.